Bored of waiting for the Premier League Hall of Fame, ESPN FC thought, you know what, we'll just do our own. The first 5 inductees were announced yesterday: Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard. That, of course, has caused a lot of debate. Here to throw in their 2 pennies, Stephen Nicol is with us. Stevie, let's start with that 5. Are you happy with it? Would you like to see someone else in it? What's your thoughts?
I would actually change 2 of the 5. As fantastic as Thierry Henry was, as fantastic as Scholes was, I would have Cantona in, and I would have Roy Keane in the top 5. Listen, when you talk about a Premier League Hall of Fame, there really are at least a dozen names that could actually make their way into the top 5. But as I said, my personal opinion, and at the end of the day, that's what it is. When you look at a player, some people look for other things than somebody else. My personal opinion is the most glaring one out of the 5 would be Cantona. I mean, you can't think of the Premier League without Eric Cantona. You know, the start of anything is always huge. You know, the base of anything is always important. And the Premier League started, and that's when Eric Cantona came into the scene, and boy, did he make an impression.
But was his impression as big as Thierry Henry, Stevie?
What, 4 championships in 5 seasons? I mean, you talk about bringing a flair and a completely different personality and a real personality. You kind of, the argument is very difficult because you look at what Henry did, and yes, he was an absolute superstar, but we have to separate these guys, and I'm separating Eric Cantona from Thierry Henry.
And yet you would still have Giggs in your top 5 still. You'd have Gerrard over Thierry Henry, despite the fact he never won the league.
Well, you can't argue that Gerrard never won the league, but what you can't argue is that one player carried one of the biggest clubs in the world on his back for a decade. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Thierry Henry had an incredible supporting cast. Again, I'll say it, as incredible Thierry Henry was. Gerrard didn't have that supporting cast. Anything Liverpool won silverware, you're talking FA Cups, you're talking Champions League, that was Steven Gerrard. He carried that team. He carried, as I said, arguably right now one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world, and he carried it on his shoulders. That surely has to be enough to get this guy in the top 5.
Finally, Stevie, for those maybe the younger viewers who didn't see Alan Shearer play that much, how good was he? How difficult was he to defend against?
You know what? Everybody looks at Alan Shearer, and certainly when you look at his appearances, his goals, you know, top scorer of all time in the Premier League, that's what you think about. But this guy just wasn't a goal scorer. This guy was an absolute world-class centre forward at holding the ball up. He had an incredible touch, and I'll tell you what, you talk about smart, you know, positional. You know, when at times you need to try and help your team to get them out of a defensive position, and you've got a guy like Shearer standing on the halfway line, holding off 2 or 3 defenders to give his teammates time to get up and then join in. I mean, that is, some would say that's a bonus, but Shearer was a complete player. Shearer did not have a weakness. He actually scored a goal against me at Anfield. It was in the penalty box. He had his back to goal. I thought I had him in the perfect position, and the ball just bounced up in front of him, and he swiveled and hit it first time into the top corner. And there are some times as a defender, you just have to say, you know what, I don't think I could have done anything to stop that. That's how good this guy was. I think I was a pretty good defender, Dan, but I'll tell you what, I couldn't do anything that day.
Oh, Stevie, in your humble brag way. Stevie Nicol, thank you very much. Nick Miller's been writing over on the website about who the next 5 players should be inducted into our Hall of Fame. Be sure to check it out. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.